Best e-commerce homepage design. What is the purpose of a homepage, and why do the opinions of the most senior people in organizations always determine the homepage design?
The purpose of the homepage has to do with brand. So first of all, that's the entry point to your brand. That's the entry point to your e-commerce store. It's also an entry point to people that want jobs with your company. It's the entry point to investors. It's also the entry point to people that want to use the website to find your offline store, your brick and mortar store. So the homepage is not just for the internet alone. It covers a lot of ramification. And in my experience of redesigning homepage for different types of organizations, I've seen that the homepage is very, very political. The reason why is because there's some subject matter experts that are needed for a very effective homepage that are not always in the conversation. I'll start with a UX designer, for example. The UX designer can give you the understanding of the customer and what the customer expects from a homepage. And then you have the UI designer. That person will make sure that the layouts, the design and everything is aesthetic on mobile and things like that. Those two individuals sometimes are not involved in homepage redesign in some instances. And then you have the content person, you have the brand, you have the acquisition. So the homepage is literally the one place where every skill in the organization that is important, from customer service to acquisition, need to come together and make a collaborative decision where it's not groupthink. It's more like, okay, what is good for the brand? What is good for conversion? What is good for retention? And one thing that some organizations don't pay attention to is the homepage will serve different purposes for first-time customers, for first-time visitors to the website, returning visitors to the website, and people that have bought from you before and have left, and then you're trying to win them back. So that's what the homepage does essentially. We'll go into more details about the purpose of the homepage.
So you've mentioned different types of customers. What are the types of e-commerce homepages?
That's a good question. For e-commerce, it depends if you have an offline location. Say, for example, I've worked with Harrods in the past. Harrods has a store in in Knightsbridge. So they have a store there. I used to work in High Street Kensington, but they have an offline store and they have an online store. And this organization is a luxury brand, and they have more than 30 to 40,000 products. That is a large e-commerce store. For those kind of e-commerce, the homepage will be different. And then you have a smaller set of e-commerce store that don't have as much product and is strictly online alone. And then you have the very, very small e-commerce store that have less than 10 to 15 products. So each homepage, depending on the size and the product volume, will also determine the homepage. And if the organization also has an offline store, an e-commerce store, a homepage for an organization that doesn't have an offline store will be different.
So the homepage usually entails a lot of different types of elements. How do we optimize those elements on the homepage? So logo, for example.
Okay, so let's start with the homepage logo. This will determine, let's look at it from a KPI standpoint. Your logo is your brand, and your logo also needs to communicate your value proposition. Some organizations make the mistake of not adding a tagline to their logo. You're not Apple, you're not Amazon, you're not big organization. If you're a smaller brand that people don't understand your brand, your logo needs to be able to communicate your business value proposition and the type of niche and the type of product you sell. So your logo needs to be able, so when someone sees your logo somewhere else of your website, it needs to be able to trigger a recall of your brand. The logo needs to be able to help people understand what your homepage URL is, so they know straight away. So instead of them searching through Google, you start having direct visit to your website, that is the strength of your logo. So you're avoiding people searching through generic term to find your website. They'll be searching your brand name to find your website. So the logo is really, really, really important. And then the location of the logo is also important, because people read, English-speaking countries read from left to right. I've seen instances where e-commerce websites have their logo at the middle. Normally, what I recommend to brands is to have it to the top left of your website. So that's what you need to think about when you're optimizing for the logo. Then underneath the logo, you then have the navigation. The navigation, depending on the size of the product your e-commerce store sells, your navigation should be able to communicate straight away your product listing. It should be able to communicate the kind of category of products that you sell. But if you're a website that has more than 30, 40, 50,000 product listing, it will be difficult for someone to then navigate through the navigation. It will take time. That's why big websites like that have the search bar. So you then encourage people to have two options when they're on your e-commerce website. For smaller e-commerce, you don't need a search bar. For larger e-commerce store with a large pool of products, you need to encourage people to either use the navigation or the search bar. So what I'm talking about here is above the fold part of the homepage. So we've discussed the logo, the navigation, depending on the size of the organization, the search bar. Underneath that, you then have the homepage hero title. You then have the subtitle, and then you have the call to action. And then in some instances, you have the hero image, and some people would go for a hero video. I normally recommend video because video boosts conversion better. And if people are searching, if the bulk of your customers are searching through mobile, they can easily just click on the video and you have the opportunity to communicate your brand to them. One problem that I see with organizations is they lean heavily towards text content on a homepage. We need to understand that content, when you talk about content on a homepage, you're talking about three things. You're talking about text, you're talking about image, and you're talking about video. And if you look at a lot of e-commerce websites, they tilt heavily on either text or images, and rarely will you see the video element come into play. There are a lot of reasons why this happened, but as I mentioned, you have the homepage hero text, hero header, subtext, then the CTA, and then you have the image and then the video. That's above the fold content. You also need to design all these elements to be able to work hand in hand together. When they land on your homepage straight off the bat, you need to communicate what your company does, your company value proposition, your product value proposition, and then you need to communicate straight away to them what is in it for them. What are the benefits? What do they stand to gain? You need to kind of avoid talking about me on your homepage. You need to communicate to the customer what value they can get and how they can get it quickly. So that's where the navigation, the CTA needs to get them straight into where they're going. And I mentioned earlier on that you have first-time visitors to your website, returning visitors, and visitors that have churned. So all this element needs to cater for those three buckets of customers that come to your homepage. And the layout, the way you lay out the above the fold content also needs to encourage people to scroll down. So for mobile, people are used to scrolling, but there's a certain way you design your above the fold content that will discourage people from scrolling. And that's why you have a lot of high bounce rate on the homepage. If your homepage is having a very, very high bounce rate, that means you need to look at your homepage and redesign the homepage to encourage people to take action. And you also need to look at your homepage from a journey perspective. And then we've discussed above the fold. below the fold, you need to have how you structure your content in a way that it will encourage people that were not convinced about the stuff above the fold. When they scroll down, it reinforces what they've seen above the fold. And yeah, the layout also needs to be tailored in a way that it's not just responsive on mobile, it's tailored in a way where all those three buckets of customer, first time, returning, needs to be able to get what they want. So those are the important elements of a homepage.
You've mentioned logo as one of the first things that customers see. Presumably brand color also plays a part in the homepage design.
So every organization or every e-commerce website have their brand color palettes and logos and stuff like that. What you need to understand is the color you choose. Color does not really determine the CTA, that the action people take, but your brand color should not be like a rainbow color, like too many colors. You want the color to work in unity, and you want the color to highlight certain elements that you want people to focus on. For example, you want a unique color for your call to action buttons. You want a unique color for your navigation bars. So for example, if someone goes deeper into your website, how do they know where they are on your website? So those are the elements that comes into play. You need to kind of optimize and make sure that your colors are not, they're designed and they're chosen also for accessibility. So people with disability, so they're able, some people are colorblind. You need to factor in all those elements when you're designing your homepage and the kind of colors you use as well. Obviously, it needs to match the color of your brand, but you also need to look at, okay, does this color adhere to accessibility guidelines, and does it help people with disability and things like that?
Can you give us some examples of hero headers, homepage headers and homepage subheadings that work in your experience?
That's a good question. The homepage header and subheader, it's unique to each organization. The goal of the homepage header is to communicate to people who you are. So when they look at it, within 5 seconds, whatever header you choose needs to communicate to people, and it also needs to communicate value to them. So you shouldn't be having a header that said welcome to where. So your header should communicate something straight off the bat to someone that, okay, you're landing here. Say for example, if it's a website that sells clothes, you need to kind of help people understand that, okay, you can help them dress up for their party, that kind of comment. So you're not just selling a product, you're selling a purpose to them. Like, oh, are you planning a Christmas party? Are you planning to go to a wedding? Browse a collection of products to help you get ready for your event. So that is a different way of communicating to someone rather than saying, oh, buy your clothes, because you're communicating purpose to them. So there's no one size fits all of, oh, this is a perfect heading, this is a perfect subheading. The heading needs to communicate value that the customer is getting. The subheading needs to reinforce that. And then the call to action button needs to get them to the section of the website that they need to get to. And the homepage should not just focus on transactions alone, because when your website is just transaction, then you're not really engaging. That's where the blog section comes into play. So I'm not saying you should optimize your homepage for the blog section, but your homepage also needs to communicate to people that are not ready to buy straight away. They just want to know more about your products and things like that. The homepage needs to navigate them through that initial awareness and understanding your brand, understanding your products and things like that, before you then funnel them to where they buy. So when you're looking at a homepage, look at it from a journey perspective. Someone that is coming to research, that just doesn't know anything about your brand, doesn't trust your brand, the homepage should lead them down a funnel that gives them all the information they need to know. and then when they come back, then they're primed to buy. There's this perception that people will buy on first visit. It doesn't happen that way. Some customers will visit your website like 6 to 8 times before they convert. So every time they land on the homepage, for every journey that they want to go to research or to browse or to put something in save something as favorites and things like that, the homepage needs to be tailored in a way to give them that easy way to navigate.
So you mentioned the importance of keeping visitors on the homepage and the importance of scrolling or encouraging them to scroll. What should be included in the content below the fold?
That's a good question. The content below the fold, say someone comes to your website and they've gone deep to your website and they couldn't find what they are looking for. They have 2 options. They either exit your website or they click on the home tab to come back to the home page. Those people are more likely to then scroll down. So below the fold, what you need to present to people is popular items or popular categories. So the website is so big, so you need to kind of show them trending products or things that you're helping them with their research, because people have a problem when it comes to choice. What I mean by this is when you present people with so much options, it then becomes a situation where they have like selective attention. They're not really sure of what to focus on. So you want to help them that, okay, these are the popular items, or these are the items that are limited edition, or something that is trending. Those are the kind of things you want to guide them below the fold. Above the fold, you've told them about who you are, what they can get on the website, and how they can get it, and then you just want to reinforce that.
How would you describe the e-commerce homepage design process?
Yes, that's a good question. So designing a homepage should not be the first thing. The other things that you need to do first, the homepage should be the last part of a website or the last thing you do. You first need to, in isolation of the homepage, you first need to look at your navigation structure. That's where you start from straight off the bat. You need to work with the UX team, the conversion rate optimization team, the content team, and you need to talk to your customer. The navigation should not be done based on what the organization thinks. It should be done based on what the customer, your target audience, expects from your website. So you design the navigation, you design the category pages, you design the landing pages, and when all those come together, that's when you then finish with the homepage. The homepage should be the last thing you do when you're optimizing a website for e-commerce. But it's always the other way around. Most organizations and most e-commerce stores start with the design of the homepage, and then they then figure out other parts. So it causes a lot of problems. In my experience of working on a lot of website redesign projects, the best websites that has been optimized from an homepage perspective has been done starting with the navigation, the category page, product listing pages, the checkout flow, all those journeys, every journey that is important, and then the homepage is then the final part where you then piece up everything, all those journeys, because you have a clear visual of all those journeys, and then you then finish up with the homepage. So that's my recommendation for a homepage redesign process. If you're looking to improve your digital customer experience and conversion on your website, reach out to me. I'll be happy to help you. I'll leave my link how you can contact me in the description. Thank you.